Hey everybody, just so you all know, I am doing my part 3 of Bloodborne New Game Plus. I don't remember where I left off. Sorry, 1 second. No problem, Peter. So, I think you missed the last time I streamed. I streamed a few days ago. Not that I think you were really following the game too much, but this is my part 3 of my first New Game Plus run on this game. So, it's actually going pretty easily, a lot more easily than my first run, just because I'm very over-leveled, I think. Because there's a bunch of, like, optional dungeons you can do. They're called challenge dungeons. And they're really, really hard. Like, they're much harder than the normal game. And you get a considerable amount of experience for doing them. I'm sure you're probably meant to do them over the course of several playthroughs. But I didn't. I did them all on my first one. So I got so much experience that I was able to level up, I don't know, 100 times or something more than I was supposed to. More than I would say most people do in their first New Game run. So as a result, I'm a lot more powerful than I think I should be. Who are you? Not you. I'm talking to these dogs. I'm sure this isn't intentional, but when I heal, it looks like my dude's like jamming something into his crotch. Kind of. I thought there was an event that was going to happen here. Oh, maybe not. Okay. There's a key thing that you get later that I thought carried over from New Game to New Game Plus, but apparently it does not. That would have triggered something there, but I don't have it. So yeah. I'm going to go this way. So on my last stream, when I got to this point, I kind of went into this long, I don't know if I can call it a rant. I would prefer to imagine it was more informative than simply a rant. But I'll go over it again because I don't think anybody was actually watching when I did that. And I doubt anybody will ever go back and watch my videos on YouTube. But this game does something interesting with shortcuts. And by interesting, I mean stupid. See, the Dark Souls games have always been kind of about, like when you go through an area, they don't want it to be linear. So like typically I would say, a very, very good example of how they can use shortcuts. There's kind of a pretty good example earlier in this game. There will be, I'll just give you a hypothetical example. When you get to a new area, you'll get to a checkpoint. Like in earlier Souls games, it was a bonfire. In this game, it's these little lantern things. So you get to a checkpoint so that whenever you die, you restart at that checkpoint. Now, as you go through the level, you're going to die quite a bit, and you're going to restart at that checkpoint. So if they want an area to be particularly long, rather than making it a straight line with several checkpoints, one thing that they like to do is to instead make it kind of like a big spiral that goes around the one checkpoint. So instead of having a whole bunch of checkpoints, you have one. But in order to keep you from having to backtrack through the same area over and over and over again every time you die, they make it so that halfway through the level, or maybe let's say a third of the way through the level, you open up a shortcut that leads ideally from the 1/3 point back to that checkpoint. So that instead of having to go through the first third every time you die, you can jump straight to, through that shortcut. And then there will presumably be another shortcut 2/3 of the way through. And then when you get to all the way through it, you've gotten to another checkpoint, so you don't need to backtrack anymore. Now, Dark Souls 2 didn't do very good with this. Dark Souls 2, each individual area tends to be very linear. So there will be multiple bonfires. Like, you'll get to a bonfire, you'll progress through for 20 minutes or so, and then, another bonfire. Then you'll progress through a little bit more, then another bonfire, and then another bonfire. And it's not bad, it's just, it's not good. Like, I would say good level design makes use of the areas, because in Dark Souls 2, especially considering the fact that they let you warp between bonfires, which you couldn't do in Dark Souls 1 until after you had gotten through the majority. What the crap was that? I have no freaking clue what just exploded. Anyway, so the point I'm trying to make is that the combination of the areas being very linear with multiple checkpoints, as well as the fact that you can easily warp between checkpoints, meant that Dark Souls 2, there was rarely, if ever, a reason for you to go through an area. More than once is what I mean. Like, once you complete it, you basically never have to go back, with a few exceptions. Now, in a lot of games, this wouldn't really be an issue. A lot of people just accept that's how games are. But what made Dark Souls 1 so good, and I would say what makes parts of this game so good is in the same way, is that it rewards you for going back through areas because there's reason to do so. And I would say as a game designer, not that I am a game designer as much as I may tell my boss I aspire to be. I just died. As a game designer, I feel like they should make you want to go through the areas multiple times because you're putting in all of this work to build this world. So if you create an area that the player is only ever going to go through once, you're going to be encouraged, or rather you're going to be discouraged to make that area super interesting. Like, if you put a lot of work into that area, you're going to want players to go through it more. So if you know players aren't going to go through it very often because there's no incentive to do so, you're probably going to be more inclined to not put a lot of work into it. And so, there's a lot of areas of Dark Souls 2 where it's just not very interesting. You're only going to want to go through it once, and that's just that. Whereas if you make the game have a more interesting level design, if everything is built around one checkpoint, then there's more incentive for you to make it easier for the players to go through it multiple times because you've put a lot of work into it. I don't know if anything that I just said made any sense, but the point being, crap, what was my point? Oh, so the point I was trying to make is that this series tends to use shortcuts to let you get to and from the checkpoints easily. So while this game uses shortcuts in, I would say that it uses a lot of them, which Dark Souls 2 did not. The point I was bringing up, the point I was trying to bring up was that while trying to add in a lot of shortcuts to make up for the fact that there were none or very, very few in Dark Souls 2, they kind of, I feel like a lot of the shortcuts are unnecessary. Like, I feel like instead of making a game with no shortcuts, they made a game with too many shortcuts. Oh, now I know what blew up. There we go. The area I was just in, there's a shortcut about... I'm trying to think of the best way to describe this, because when I was describing it before, I was going through the level at the same time, so I could easily reference what I was talking about. Imagine if you have a level that is a straight line, and that line has 6 points on it. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. You start at point 1, and at point 6, you move on to another area. Imagine if there's a shortcut at point 2, or at least you can't open it. I'm doing a terrible job of this. Okay. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 are the 6 stages of the level. When you get to point 4. When you get to point when you get to point 4, you find a shortcut that leads you back to point 2. You might think, oh, that's a cool shortcut, It lets you go, if you die, you start off at point 1, you go to point 2 and skip up to point 4. You don't have to go to point 3 again. No problem, you just saved a little bit of time, it's all cool. But then imagine if you take that little shortcut to from point 2 to point 4. And then when you get to point 5, there's another shortcut that leads back to point 3. So you not only have a shortcut that leads from point 2 to 4, but you have a shortcut that leads from point 3 to 5. Well, then you have to ask yourself, well, why is there 2? Like, you cannot make use of both of those shortcuts in one run. You either have to skip the shortcut at point 2 so that you can get to point 3 and then take that shortcut to point 5, or you have to go from you have to go from point 2 to point 4 and then skip the shortcut that would have taken you from 3 to 5. So there's 2 shortcuts, but in any run you can only use one of them. Or I suppose if you wanted to make it really interesting for some reason, you could go from 1 to 2, skip from 2 to 4, and then backtrack from 4 to 3, and then skip to 5, and then go to 6, and you're on. So, it's like in that case, why would someone build a level with 2 shortcuts if you're not ever going to use them both? Now I suppose you might say that they're trying to do it because they're trying to make it so that you have multiple ways to get through the level. They want to make it interesting so that, if you're going to be going through multiple times, you don't ever have to do it the same way twice. I suppose that could be, but, there isn't really that much in this game that's going to make you go through this multiple times. Like, I freaking hate what's happening. There isn't enough incentive in this game to go through an area after you've already beaten it, because you can warp from checkpoint to checkpoint in this game. So it's just a little goofy that they would do that. Like, I guess I'm trying to say that the only reason I could think that they would put in such a weird checkpoint or such weird shortcuts is if they were trying to encourage you to go through the level in different ways. But there isn't really enough incentive to do that, so I feel like that probably isn't the reason. And there are other areas in this game where there will be 2 shortcuts, like I'm talking 1 minute away from each other. Like, did you really need to give me another shortcut if it's only going to take me about another minute to get there? I'll get to one of those later on, but like, it just seems like some of the shortcuts in this game are completely unnecessary. So where the previous game had not enough shortcuts, this one has too many. And the ones that they use just don't really make sense. Anyway, I don't know if any of that made sense listening to it, but it's just one of the little quirks about this game that I can talk about. Wow. I hate these guys. I even hate them. Because the weapons they're using give you this status effect called Frenzy, which is incredibly stupid. What Frenzy does is it gives you this little meter that fills up as you get hit with a frenzying attack. When it fills up, it just, bam, does a ton of damage to you. It does some percentage-based amount of damage. So when the bar fills up, it immediately takes away like 80% of your total health. So what that means is that when this guy is hitting you, say he's hitting you for just a little bit of damage, if he hits you enough times, bam, it's going to kill you most of the time. And the worst part about it is that I don't know if those particular guys do it, but there are enemies later in the game that inflict frenzy on you. And when they do it, whatever attack caused the frenzy doesn't stop dealing frenzy after the attack is done. So like, let's say you get hit once with it and it starts filling up your frenzy bar. Even if you kill that enemy, the bar is going to keep filling up even though nothing is hitting you. So like, it gets to a point where if you get hit with something even once, it's a death sentence. Like, it is telling you as a player, in 10 seconds your character is about to die. So do whatever you need to do in those 10 seconds and then you're going to die. And it's really frustrating. I do not understand why they would do that. It's a terrible, terrible game feature, and it's stupid. They should never, ever do that again. Anyway, I believe at this point in the game I have done everything that I can without progressing the story, so I'm going to progress the story. There was a boss I killed here earlier. I think it was last time, so I don't think anybody saw it. But after killing the boss, there's this big skull sitting on this altar, and I'm going to inspect it.
Master Willem, I've come to bid you farewell.
Oh, I know. You think now to betray me.
No, but you will never listen. I tell you, I will not forget our adage.
We are born of the blood, made men by the blood, undone by the blood. Our eyes are yet to open.
Fear the old blood. I must take my leave.
By the gods, fear it, Lawrence.
Okay, so I'll explain what that means in just a minute. But one thing I want to point out is that before I touched that skull, the game was in like evening mode. Basically, the sky was dark. It was getting dark, but it was still daytime. However, now that I've touched it, it is full-on nighttime. As a result, some enemies have... I think in general, enemies get a little bit more powerful when the game switches to nighttime. Also, certain enemies change their behavior patterns. Like there was a big enemy that I already killed over here that once it becomes nighttime, they're like crouching when you encounter them or something. I think there's a couple of them this way. I'll show you what I mean. Yeah, so like these enemies out here are like kneeling when you encounter them. So these guys are actually a little bit easier because you have a little bit of time to wail on them before they murder you. Anyway, so that scene was a memory between a gentleman named Lawrence and a mysterious figure known as Master Willem. I'm going to try to explain the backstory of this game. I'm probably going to do a very, very bad job because the game does a very cryptic way of telling the story to you, and then so you kind of have to put it together. And I didn't put it together myself at all. I watched a video a while ago that explained it, and it's been a long time, so I might not do this justice. So, in this game, it takes place in a city called Yharnam, or country called Yharnam? I don't know. The place I'm in is called Yharnam. And so it takes place in this town called Yharnam or whatever. A long time ago, I'm not entirely clear how long ago it was, there was some people began exploring the caverns beneath the city, and when they did, they discovered there was this huge complex of dungeons from a long, long, long time ago. And in one of those dungeons, they discovered an extra-worldly being named... Crap, what was its name? Oh. Hey. Lisa just got here. I'm playing games and Peter is eating dinner, so I'm talking to Peter through the game.
Oh, okay.
Oh, this was stuff that was in your car and my car and some packages that came to your parents' house. Do you need those packing bubble things? Okay, no problem. And there's a couple packages for you over there.
You opened up my Lululemon?
No, that was in your car, I think, from a while ago. It was already open. There's just there's a bag inside that bag.
Okay.
So.
Gotcha. Hi, Peter.
Not sure if you heard that, Peter, if that was Lisa. Crap, I was trying to remember what that thing's name was. It was something with an E. His name was like Illibris or something like that. Anyway, so they find this otherworldly being underneath this city, and in communicating with it, they learn of some kind of ancient blood that they're able to use to give themselves like power or something. It gives them like knowledge. I don't know. Anyway, so they start abusing this blood that they are introduced to, and then they even make that's pretty cool. Some church springs up that starts making like a better form of the blood that has healing qualities. So like people start using this blood, and the whole city kind of revolves around this blood. But then of course things go wrong. It starts making people go crazy or whatever. Anyway, so this church, their code word or password is the phrase "Fear the old blood." So that's what I learned from that. I learned from that memory. And by the way, the skull that I touched belonged to Lawrence, the guy that was in that thing. He apparently turned into a giant monster. Somebody cut off his head, and his skull was a holy artifact. Anyway, so now I can open up this door.
May I interrupt?
Yes.
You talked about making a good dinner yesterday.
And then we didn't decide what we're going to make.
So, no dinner?
What do you want? Do you want kitties?
No.
What do you want?
Go to Olive Garden again?
Yeah. Yeah, I do.
Alright.
That sounds awesome. Maybe I can use that gift card. Anyway, so I could have gotten to this this door earlier, but I didn't have the password. Now I do. And as you get inside, you see that the guy who took the password is dead. He has been for some time. Wonder why I thought he was talking to me. Anyway. Peter hasn't responded. I don't know if he's not listening, or maybe he isn't at his computer.
This one I told you to take out to my car.
Oh,
It's fine. I'll just take it out again.
okay. Oh, and the Munster car,
Yeah.
like that was a gift for us from your dad.
Yes.
You want me to?
Piece of it is broken, so that's
Oh.
he's going to my parents' house
I didn't
because I
re-
want him to fix it.
Okay, I didn't realize that.
Everything I do makes sense.
Okay. What the heck?
It's a handbag.
That's pretty awesome.
Even better, it's from the Beetlejuice cartoon.
Are you serious?
Yeah.
What the heck?
I'll show you the episode. Lydia
Okay.
designs it for her store. Spooky Boutique.
That's awesome. Did like somebody on Etsy make that, or
Yeah.
okay? You have to put pictures of that online.
Shop Lily Freak at the Spooky Boutique. I'm totally wearing this to work tomorrow. I'm only going to work for 2 hours tomorrow.
Oh, okay, cool.
I wasn't scheduled at all, but I was like, I can for 2 hours, so I'll round out to 40 hours for the week.
Gotcha. Okay, Peter said, I heard Lisa's hello. Sorry I didn't say hi back. I figured it would take like 15 minutes before she got the message. And I'm probably reading this 15 minutes after he typed it in.
Alrighty.
Oh, Peter said he'd much rather hear the backstory behind the gift card. So I got a gift card for Christmas, I think for Christmas last year. And it's for Olive Garden. We went to Olive Garden last week. Like finally, after having this card for almost a year. Went to Olive Garden, like, oh sweet, we'll use this gift card. And then as we're driving away, I realized I forgot to use the gift card. So we've still got it, and that means that we can go again. Can't have it. Don't walk into fire, people. Oh no, I feel like going out. I want to go to Olive Garden. You want to go now? Okay, Peter, I'm out. It's only been 30 minutes, but sorry. And I'm glad you appreciated the gift card story. Well, you have a good day. Good night. See you later.